Montenegro. Montenegro, listen, Montenegrin, Tsrna Gora, lit. Black Mountain, pronounced ţnaː, ɡǒra, is a country in southeastern Europe. It is located on the Adriatic Sea and is a part of the Balkans, sharing borders with Serbia to the northeast, Bosnia and Herzegovina to the north and west, Kosovo to the east, Albania to the southeast, and the Adriatic Sea and Croatia to the southwest. Podgorica, the capital and largest city, covers 10.4% of Montenegro's territory of 13,812 square kilometers, 5,333 sq mi, and is home to roughly 30% of its total population. During the early medieval period, 3 principalities were located on the territory of modern-day Montenegro: Duklja, roughly corresponding to the southern half, Travunia, the west, and Rascia proper, the north. The Principality of Zeta emerged in the 14th and 15th centuries. From the late 14th century to the late 18th century, large parts of southern Montenegro were ruled by the Venetian Republic and incorporated into Venetian Albania. The name Montenegro was first used to refer to the country in the late 15th century. After falling under Ottoman rule, Montenegro regained its independence in 1696 under the rule of the House of Petrović-Njegoš. Montenegro's independence was recognized by the great powers at the Congress of Berlin in 1878. In 1910, the country became a kingdom. After World War I, it became part of Yugoslavia. Following the breakup of Yugoslavia, the republics of Serbia and Montenegro together proclaimed a federation. Following an independence referendum held in May 2006, Montenegro declared its independence, and the confederation peacefully dissolved. Montenegro has an upper-middle income economy and ranks 48th in the Human Development Index. It is a member of the United Nations, NATO, the World Trade Organization, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the Council of Europe, and the Central European Free Trade Agreement. Montenegro is also a founding member of the Union for the Mediterranean and is currently in the process of joining the European Union. Etymology. The country's English name derives from Venetian and translates as Black Mountain, deriving from the appearance of Mount Lovćen when covered in dense evergreen forests. The first written mention of Montenegro in Cyrillic was in the charter of King Milutin of 1276. In Italian sources, the name of Montenegro was mentioned for the first in its original form Crna Gora in 1348, and in 1379 it is mentioned as Crna Gora in the sources from Dubrovnik. In other Italian sources, Montenegro is also mentioned as Montagna Negra, Montenegro or Montenegro, and therefrom this designation came into all Western European languages. In the monuments of Kotor, Montenegro was mentioned as Montenegro in 1397, as Montenegro in 1443, and as Crna Gora in 1435 and 1458. But there are much older papers of Latin sources where Montenegro is mentioned as Montenegro. The first mention of Montenegro Latin dates to 9 November 1053, and the others date to 1061, 1097, 1121, 1125, 1144, 1154, 1179, and 1189. The native name Crna Gora, also meaning Black Mountain or Black Hill, was mentioned for the first time in a charter issued by Stefan Milutin. It came to denote the majority of contemporary Montenegro in the 15th century. Originally, it had referred to only a small strip of land under the rule of the Pastrovici tribe. The aforementioned region became known as Stara Crna Gora Old Montenegro by the 19th century to distinguish the independent region from the neighboring Ottoman-occupied Montenegrin territory of Brda, the Highlands. Montenegro further increased its size several times by the 20th century as the result of wars against the Ottoman Empire, which saw the annexation of Old Herzegovina and parts of Metohija and southern Rascia. Its borders have changed little since then, losing Metohija and gaining the Bay of Kotor. After the second cession of the ÄvnaÄ during World War II in Yugoslavia, the contemporary modern state of Montenegro was founded as the federal state of Montenegro Montenegrin, Sabzna Država Tsrna Gora / Sabzna Država Crna Gora on 15 November 1943, within the Yugoslav Federation by the ÄvnaÄ. After the war, Montenegro became a republic under its name, the People's Republic of Montenegro Montenegrin, Narodna Republika Tsrna Gora / Narodna Republika Crna Gora on 29 November 1945. In 1963, it was renamed to the Socialist Republic of Montenegro Montenegrin, Socijalistica Republika Tsrna Gora / Socijalistica Republika Crna Gora. As the breakup of Yugoslavia occurred, the SRCG was renamed to the Republic of Montenegro Montenegrin, Republika Tsrna Gora / Republika Crna Gora on 27 April 1992, within the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia by removing the adjective socialist from the republic's title. Since 22 October 2007, a year after its independence, the name of the country became simply known as Montenegro. The ISO Alpha 2 code for Montenegro is ME, and the Alpha 3 code is MNE. History. Arrival of the Slavs. 3 Slavic principalities were located on the territory: Duklja, roughly corresponding to the southern half, Travunia, the west, and Rascia, the north. Duklja gained its independence from the Byzantine Roman Empire in 1042. Over the next few decades, it expanded its territory to neighboring Rascia and Bosnia, and also became recognized as a kingdom. Its power started declining at the beginning of the 12th century. After King Badin's death in 1101 or 1108, several civil wars ensued. Duklja reached its zenith under Vojislav's son, Mihailo 1046–81, and his grandson Constantine Badin 1081–1101. As the nobility fought for the throne, the kingdom was weakened, and by 1186, the territory of modern-day Montenegro became part of the state ruled by Stefan Nemanja and was a part of various state formations ruled by the Nemanjic dynasty for the next 2 centuries. After the Serbian Empire collapsed in the second half of the 14th century, the most powerful Zetan family, the Balzics, became sovereigns of Zeta. By the 13th century, Zeta had replaced Duklja when referring to the realm. In the late 14th century, southern Montenegro Zeta came under the rule of the Balzic noble family, then the Crnojevic noble family, and by the 15th century, Zeta was more often referred to as Crna Gora Venetian, Montenegro. In 1421, Zeta was annexed to the Serbian despotate, but after 1455, another noble family from Zeta, the Crnojevics, became sovereign rulers of the country, making it the last free monarchy of the Balkans before it fell to the Ottomans in 1496 and got annexed to the Sanjak of Kotor. During the reign of Crnojevics, Zeta became known under its current name Montenegro. For a short time, Montenegro existed as a separate autonomous Sanjak in 1514–1528 Sanjak of Montenegro. Also, Old Herzegovina region was part of Sanjak of Herzegovina. Early modern period. From 1392, numerous parts of the territory that is now Montenegro were controlled by Republic of Venice, including the city of Budva, in that time known as Budva. The Venetian territory was centered on the Bay of Kotor, and the Republic also introduced governors who meddled in Montenegrin politics. Venice would control territories in present-day Montenegro until its fall in 1797. Large portions fell under the control of the Ottoman Empire from 1496 to 1878. In the 16th century, Montenegro developed a unique form of autonomy within the Ottoman Empire, permitting Montenegrin clans freedom from certain restrictions. Nevertheless, the Montenegrins were disgruntled with Ottoman rule, and in the 17th century raised numerous rebellions, which culminated in the defeat of the Ottomans in the Great Turkish War at the end of that century. Montenegro consisted of territories controlled by warlike clans. Most clans had a chieftain �naː, who was not permitted to assume the title unless he proved to be as worthy a leader as his predecessor. The Great Assembly of Montenegrin clans Zbor was held every year on 12 July in Cetinje, and any adult clansman could take part. In 1515, Montenegro became a theocracy led by the Metropolitanate of Montenegro and the littoral, which flourished after the Petrović-Njegoš of Cetinje became the traditional prince-bishops whose title was Vladika of Montenegro. People from Montenegro in this historical period have been described as Orthodox Serbs. Principality and Kingdom of Montenegro. In 1858, one of the major Montenegrin victories over the Ottomans occurred at the Battle of Grahavac. Grand Duke Mirko Petrović, elder brother of Knez Danilo, led an army of 7,500 and defeated the numerically superior Ottomans with 15,000 troops at Grahavac on 1 May 1858. This forced the great powers to officially demarcate the borders between Montenegro and Ottoman Empire, de facto recognizing Montenegro's independence. In the Battle of Vučedol, Montenegrins inflicted major defeat to the Ottoman army under Grand Vizier Ahmed Mutir Pasha. In the aftermath of the Russian victory against the Ottoman Empire in the Russo-Turkish War of 1877–1878, the major powers restructured the map of the Balkan region. The Ottoman Empire recognized independence of Montenegro, the Treaty of Berlin in 1878. The first Montenegrin constitution, also known as the Danilo Code, was proclaimed in 1855. Under Nicholas I ruled 1860–1918, the principality was enlarged several times in the Montenegro-Turkish Wars and was recognized as independent in 1878. Nicholas I established diplomatic relations with the Ottoman Empire. Minor border skirmishes excepted, diplomacy ushered in about 30 years of peace between the two states until the deposition of Abdul Hamid Roman II in 1909. The political skills of Abdul Hamid Roman II and Nicholas I played a major role in the mutually amicable relations. Modernization of the state followed, culminating with the draft of a constitution in 1905. However, political rifts emerged between the reigning People's Party, who supported the process of democratization and union with Serbia, and those of the True People's Party, who were monarchist. In 1910, Montenegro became a kingdom, and as a result of the Balkan Wars in 1912 and 1913, in which the Ottomans lost most of their Balkan lands, a common border with Serbia was established, with Kotor being awarded to a newly created Albania, though the current capital city of Montenegro, Podgorica, was on the old border of Albania and Yugoslavia. Montenegro became one of the Allied powers during World War I 1914–18. In the Battle of Mojkovac, fought in January 1916 between Austria-Hungary and the Kingdom of Montenegro, Montenegrins achieved decisive victory despite being outnumbered 5–1. From 1916 to October 1918, Austria-Hungary occupied Montenegro. During the occupation, King Nicholas fled the country and a government in exile was set up in Bordeaux. Kingdom of Yugoslavia. In 1922, Montenegro formally became the oblast of Cetinje in the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, with the addition of the coastal areas around Budva and Bay of Kotor. In a further restructuring in 1929, it became a part of a larger Zeta Banate of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia that reached the Neretva River. Nicholas's grandson, the Serb King Alexander I, dominated the Yugoslav government. Zeta Banovina was one of 9 Banovinas which formed the kingdom. It consisted of the present-day Montenegro and parts of Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia. World War Roman II and Socialist Yugoslavia. In April 1941, Nazi Germany, the Kingdom of Italy, and other Axis allies attacked and occupied the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Italian forces occupied Montenegro and established it as a puppet kingdom of Montenegro. In May, the Montenegrin branch of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia started preparations for an uprising planned for mid-July. The Communist Party and its Youth League organized 6,000 of its members into detachments prepared for guerrilla warfare. According to some historians, the first armed uprising in Nazi-occupied Europe happened on 13 July 1941 in Montenegro. Unexpectedly, the uprising took hold, and by 20 July, 32,000 men and women had joined the fight. Except for the coast and major towns Podgorica, Cetinje, Pljevlja, and Nikšić, which were besieged, Montenegro was mostly liberated. In a month of fighting, the Italian army suffered 5,000 dead, wounded, and captured. The uprising lasted until mid-August, when it was suppressed by a counter-offensive of 67,000 Italian troops brought in from Albania. Faced with new and overwhelming Italian forces, many of the fighters laid down their arms and returned home. The less intense guerrilla fighting lasted until December. Fighters who remained under arms fractured into 2 groups. Most of them went on to join the Yugoslav partisans, consisting of communists and those inclined towards active resistance. These included Arso Jovanović, Sava Kovačević, Svetozar Vukmanović Tempo, Milovan Dilas, Pico Dapčević, Vlado Dapčević, Veljko Vlahović, and Blazo Jovanović. Those loyal to the Karađorđević dynasty and opposing communism went on to become Chetniks and turned to collaboration with Italians against the partisans. War broke out between partisans and Chetniks during the first half of 1942. Pressured by Italians and Chetniks, the core of the Montenegrin partisans went to Serbia and Bosnia, where they joined with other Yugoslav partisans. Fighting between partisans and Chetniks continued through the war. Chetniks with Italian backing controlled most of the country from mid-1942 to April 1943. Montenegrin Chetniks received the status of anti-communist militia and received weapons, ammunition, food rations, and money from Italy. Most of them were moved to Mostar, where they fought in the Battle of Neretva against the partisans, but were dealt a heavy defeat. During the German Operation Schwarz against the partisans in May and June 1943, Germans disarmed large number of Chetniks without fighting, as they feared they would turn against them in case of an Allied invasion of the Balkans. After the capitulation of Italy in September 1943, partisans managed to take hold of most of Montenegro for a brief time, but Montenegro was soon occupied by German forces, and fierce fighting continued during late 1943 and entire 1944. Montenegro was liberated by the partisans in December 1944. Montenegro became one of the 6 constituent republics of the Communist Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia SFRY. Its capital became Podgorica, renamed Titograd in honor of President Josip Broz Tito. After the war, the infrastructure of Yugoslavia was rebuilt, industrialization began, and the University of Montenegro was established. Greater autonomy was established until the Socialist Republic of Montenegro ratified a new constitution in 1974. Montenegro within FR Yugoslavia. After the dissolution of the SFRY in 1992, Montenegro remained part of a smaller Federal Republic of Yugoslavia along with Serbia. In the referendum on remaining in Yugoslavia in 1992, the turnout was 66%, with 96% of the votes cast in favor of the federation with Serbia. The referendum was boycotted by the Muslim, Albanian, and Catholic minorities, as well as the pro-independence Montenegrins. The opponents claimed that the poll was organized under anti-democratic conditions with widespread propaganda from the state-controlled media in favor of a pro-federation vote. No impartial report on the fairness of the referendum was made, as it was unmonitored, unlike in a later 2006 referendum when European Union observers were present. During the 1991–1995 Bosnian War and Croatian War, Montenegrin police and military forces joined Serbian troops in the attacks on Dubrovnik, Croatia. These operations, aimed at acquiring more territory, were characterized by a consistent pattern of large-scale violations of human rights. Montenegrin General Pavel Strugar was convicted for his part in the bombing of Dubrovnik. Bosnian refugees were arrested by Montenegrin police and transported to Serb camps in Foča, where they were subjected to systematic torture and executed. In 1996, Milo Đukanovic's government severed ties between Montenegro and its partner Serbia, which was led by Slobodan Milosevic. Montenegro formed its own economic policy and adopted the German Deutschmark as its currency, and subsequently adopted the euro, although not part of the Eurozone currency union. Subsequent governments pursued pro-independence policies, and political tensions with Serbia simmered despite the political changes in Belgrade. Targets in Montenegro were bombed by NATO forces during Operation Allied Force in 1999, although the extent of these attacks was limited in both time and area affected. In 2002, Serbia and Montenegro came to a new agreement for continued cooperation and entered into negotiations regarding the future status of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. This resulted in the Belgrade Agreement, which saw the country's transformation into a more decentralized state union named Serbia and Montenegro in 2003. The Belgrade Agreement also contained a provision delaying any future referendum on the independence of Montenegro for at least 3 years. Independence and recent history. The status of the union between Montenegro and Serbia was decided by a referendum on Montenegrin independence on 21 May 2006. A total of 419,240 votes were cast, representing 86.5% of the total electorate, 230,661 votes 55.5% were for independence, and 185,002 votes 44.5% were against. This narrowly surpassed the 55% threshold needed to validate the referendum under the rules set by the European Union. According to the Electoral Commission, the 55% threshold was passed by only 2,300 votes. Serbia, the member states of the European Union, and the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council all recognized Montenegro's independence. The 2006 referendum was monitored by 5 international observer missions, headed by an Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe OSCE/ODIHR team, and around 3,000 observers in total, including domestic observers from CET-OSPA, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe PACE, the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe CLRI, and the European Parliament EP to form an international referendum observation. The IRAM, in its preliminary report, assessed compliance of the referendum process with OSCE commitments, Council of Europe commitments, other international standards for democratic electoral processes, and domestic legislation. Furthermore, the report stated that the competitive pre-referendum environment was marked by an active and generally peaceful campaign, and that there were no reports of restrictions on fundamental civil and political rights. On 3 June 2006, the Montenegrin parliament declared the independence of Montenegro, formally confirming the result of the referendum. The law on the status of the descendants of the Petrović-Njegoš dynasty was passed by the Parliament of Montenegro on 12 July 2011. It rehabilitated the royal House of Montenegro and recognized limited symbolic roles within the constitutional framework of the republic. In 2015, the investigative journalists network ÄKP named Montenegro's longtime president and Prime Minister Milo Đukanović Person of the Year in organized crime. The extent of Đukanovic's corruption led to street demonstrations and calls for his removal. In October 2016, for the day of the parliamentary election, a coup d'état was prepared by a group of persons that included leaders of the Montenegrin opposition, Serbian nationals, and Russian agents. The coup was prevented. In 2017, 14 people, including 2 Russian nationals and 2 Montenegrin opposition leaders, Andrija Mandić and Milan Knežević, were indicted for their alleged roles in the coup attempt on charges such as preparing a conspiracy against the constitutional order and the security of Montenegro, and an attempted terrorist act. Montenegro formally became a member of NATO in June 2017, though Montenegro remains deeply divided over joining NATO, an event that triggered a promise of retaliatory actions on the part of Russia's government. Montenegro has been in negotiations with the EU since 2012. In 2018, the earlier goal of acceding by 2022 was revised to 2025. The Montenegrin anti-corruption protests began in February 2019 against the incumbent President Milo Đukanović and the Prime Minister Duško Marković-led government of the ruling Democratic Party of Socialists DPS, which has been in power since 1991. As of late December 2019, the newly adopted law on religion, which de jure transfers the ownership of church buildings and estates built before 1918 from the Serbian Orthodox Church. 17 opposition Democratic Front MP were arrested prior to the voting for disrupting the vote. Demonstrations continued into March 2020 as peaceful protest walks, mostly organized by the Metropolitanate of Montenegro and the littoral in a number of Montenegrin municipalities. In its Political Rights and Civil Liberties Worldwide report in May 2020, Freedom House marked Montenegro as a hybrid regime rather than a democracy because of declining standards in governance, justice, elections, and media freedom. For the first time in 3 decades, in the 2020 parliamentary election, the opposition won more votes than Đukanovic's ruling party. Geography. Montenegro ranges from high peaks along its borders with Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania, a segment of the karst of the Western Balkan Peninsula, to a narrow coastal plain that is only 1.5 to 6 kilometers, 1 to 4 miles wide. The plain stops abruptly in the north, where Mount Lovćen and Mount Orjan plunge into the inlet of the Bay of Kotor. Montenegro's large karst region lies generally at elevations of 1,000 meters 3,280 ft above sea level. The Zeta River Valley, at an elevation of 500 m 1,600 ft, is the lowest segment. The mountains of Montenegro include some of the most rugged terrain in Europe, averaging more than 2,000 meters 6,600 feet in elevation. One of the country's notable peaks is Bobatov Kuk in the Durmitor Mountains, which reaches a height of 2522 m 8,000 274 ft. Owing to the hyperhumid climate on their western sides, the Montenegrin mountain ranges were among the most ice-eroded parts of the Balkan Peninsula during the last glacial period. Internationally, Montenegro borders Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania. It lies between latitudes 41° and 44° N and longitudes 18° and 21° E. Longest beach Velika Plaza, Ulcinj 13,008. 1 mi. Highest peak Zla Kalata, Prokletija 2535 m 8,317 ft. Largest lake, Scatter Lake 391 km 151 sq.mi of surface area. Deepest canyon, Tara River Canyon 1300 m 4,300 ft. Biggest bay, Bay of Kotor 616 km 238 sq.mi. Deepest cave, Iron Deep 1169 m 3,835 ft. Exploring started in 2012, now more than 3,000 and 9,800 ft long. Montenegro is a member of the International Commission for the Protection of the Danube River, as more than 2,000 km 772 sq.mi of the country's territory lie within the Danube catchment area. Biodiversity. The diversity of the geological base, landscape, climate, and soil, and the position of Montenegro on the Balkan Peninsula and Adriatic Sea created the conditions for high biological diversity, putting Montenegro among the hot spots of European and world biodiversity. The number of species per area unit index in Montenegro is 0.837, which is the highest index recorded in any European country. Montenegro is home to 3 terrestrial ecoregions: Balkan mixed forests, Dinaric Mountains mixed forests, and Illyrian deciduous forests. It had a 2019 Forest Landscape Integrity Index mean score of 6.41/10, ranking it 73rd globally out of 172 countries. Government and politics. The Constitution of Montenegro describes the state as a civic, democratic, ecological state of social justice based on the reign of law. Montenegro is an independent and sovereign republic that proclaimed its new constitution on 22 October 2007. The President of Montenegro is the head of state, elected for a period of 5 years through direct elections. The President represents the country abroad, promulgates laws by ordinance, calls elections for the parliament, and proposes candidates for prime minister. The President also proposes the calling of a referendum to parliament, grants amnesty for criminal offenses prescribed by the national law, confers decoration and awards, and performs other constitutional duties, and is a member of the Supreme Defense Council. The official residence of the President is in Cetinje. The government of Montenegro is the executive branch of government authority of Montenegro. The government is headed by the Prime Minister and consists of the deputy prime ministers as well as ministers. The Parliament of Montenegro is a unicameral legislative body. It passes laws, ratifies treaties, appoints the prime minister, ministers, and justices of all courts, adopts the budget, and performs other duties as established by the Constitution. Parliament can pass a vote of no confidence in the government by a simple majority. One representative is elected per 6,000 voters. In 2019, the Freedom House reported that years of increasing state capture, abuse of power, and strongman tactics employed by the President Đukanović have tipped his country over the edge. For the first time since 2003, Montenegro is no longer categorized as democracy and became a hybrid regime. The DPS narrowly lost the 2020 Montenegrin parliamentary election, ending its 30-year rule. Foreign relations. After the promulgation of the Declaration of Independence in the Parliament of the Republic of Montenegro on 3 June 2006, following the independence referendum held on 21 May, the government of the Republic of Montenegro assumed the competences of defining and conducting the foreign policy of Montenegro as a subject of international law and a sovereign state. The implementation of this constitutional responsibility was vested in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which was given the task of defining the foreign policy priorities and activities needed for their implementation. These activities are pursued in close cooperation with other state administration authorities, the President, the Speaker of the Parliament, and other relevant stakeholders. Integration into the European Union, Montenegro's strategic goal. This process will remain in the focus of Montenegrin foreign policy in the short term. The second strategic and equally important goal, but one attainable in a shorter time span, was joining NATO, which would guarantee stability and security for pursuing other strategic goals. Montenegro believes NATO integration would speed up EU integration. In May 2017, NATO accepted Montenegro as a NATO member starting 5 June 2017. Symbols. An official flag of Montenegro, based on the royal standard of King Nicholas I, was adopted on 12 July 2004 by the Montenegrin legislature. This royal flag was red with a silver border, a silver coat of arms, and the initials ~naː in Cyrillic script corresponding to ~naː in Latin script, representing King Nicholas I. On the current flag, the border and arms are in gold, and the royal cipher in the center of the arms has been replaced with a golden lion. The National Day of 13 July marks the date in 1878 when the Congress of Berlin recognized Montenegro as the 27th independent state in the world and the start of one of the first popular uprisings in Europe against the Axis powers on 13 July 1941 in Montenegro. In 2004, the Montenegrin legislature selected a popular Montenegrin traditional song, O Bright Dawn of May, as the national anthem. Montenegro's official anthem during the reign of King Nicholas I was ÄU Crnoj Gori to our beautiful Montenegro. Military. The military of Montenegro is a fully professional standing army under the Ministry of Defense and is composed of the Montenegrin Ground Army, the Montenegrin Navy, and the Montenegrin Air Force, along with special forces. Conscription was abolished in 2006. The military currently maintains a force of 1920 active duty members. The bulk of its equipment and forces were inherited from the armed forces of the State Union of Serbia and Montenegro. As Montenegro contained the entire coastline of the former Union, it retained practically the entire naval force. Montenegro was a member of NATO's Partnership for Peace program and then became an official candidate for full membership in the alliance. Montenegro applied for a membership action plan on 5 November 2008, which was granted in December 2009. Montenegro is also a member of Adriatic Charter. Montenegro was invited to join NATO on 2 December 2015 and on 19 May 2016, NATO and Montenegro conducted a signing ceremony at NATO headquarters in Brussels for Montenegro's membership invitation. Montenegro became NATO's 29th member on 5 June 2017, despite Russia's objections. The government plans to have the army participate in peacekeeping missions through the UN and NATO, such as the International Security Assistance Force. Administrative divisions. Montenegro is divided into 23 municipalities opština. This includes 21 district-level municipalities and 2 urban municipalities with 2 subdivisions of Podgorica municipality listed below. Each municipality can contain multiple cities and towns. Historically, the territory of the country was divided into ~naː. Cities in Montenegro. Economy. The economy of Montenegro is mostly service-based and is in late transition to a market economy. According to the International Monetary Fund, the nominal GDP of Montenegro was $5.424 billion in 2019. The GDP PPP for 2019 was $12.516 billion or $20,083 per capita. According to Eurostat data, the Montenegrin GDP per capita stood at 48% of the EU average in 2018. The Central Bank of Montenegro is not part of the euro system, but the country is euroized. GDP grew at 10.7% in 2007 and 7.5% in 2008. The country entered a recession in 2008 as a part of the global recession, with GDP contracting by 4%. However, Montenegro remained a target for foreign investment, the only country in the Balkans to increase its amount of direct foreign investment. The country exited the recession in mid-2010, with GDP growth at around 0.5%. However, the significant dependence of the Montenegrin economy on foreign direct investment leaves it susceptible to external shocks and a high export/import trade deficit. In 2007, the service sector made up 72.4% of GDP, with industry and agriculture making up the rest at 17.6% and 10% respectively. There are 50,000 farming households in Montenegro that rely on agriculture to fill the family budget. Infrastructure. The Montenegrin road infrastructure is not yet at Western European standards. Despite an extensive road network, no roads are built to full motorway standards. Construction of new motorways is considered a national priority, as they are important for uniform regional economic development and the development of Montenegro, an attractive tourist destination. Current European routes that pass through Montenegro are E65 and E80. The backbone of the Montenegrin rail network is the Belgrade-Bar Railway, which provides international connection towards Serbia. There is a domestic branch line, the Nikšić-Podgorica Railway, which was operated as a freight-only line for decades and is now also open for passenger traffic after the reconstruction and electrification works in 2012. The other branch line from Podgorica towards the Albanian border, the Podgorica-Škoda Railway, is not in use. Montenegro has two international airports, Podgorica Airport and Tivat Airport. The two airports served 1 million passengers in 2008. The port of Bar is Montenegro's main seaport. Initially built in 1906, the port was almost completely destroyed during World War II, with reconstruction beginning in 1950. Today, it is equipped to handle over 5 million tons of cargo annually. The reconstruction of the Belgrade-Bar Railway and the proposed Belgrade-Bar motorway are expected to bring the port back up to capacity. Tourism. Montenegro has both a picturesque coast and a mountainous northern region. The country was a well-known tourist spot in the 1980s. Yet, the Yugoslav wars that were fought in neighboring countries during the 1990s crippled the tourist industry and damaged the image of Montenegro for years. With a total of 1.6 million visitors, Montenegro is the 36th most visited country out of 47 countries in Europe. The Montenegrin Adriatic coast is 295 km 183 mi long, with 72 km 45 mi of beaches and many well-preserved ancient old towns. National Geographic Traveler edited once a decade ranks Montenegro among the 50 places of a lifetime, and the Montenegrin seaside Sveti Stefan was used as the cover for the magazine. The coast region of Montenegro is considered one of the great new discoveries among world tourists. In January 2010, the New York Times ranked the Ulcinj South Coast region of Montenegro, including Velika Plaza, Ada Bojana, and the Hotel Mediterranean of Ulcinj, among the top 31 places to go in 2010 as part of a worldwide ranking of tourism destinations. Montenegro was also listed by Yahoo Travel among the 10 top hotspots of 2009 to visit, describing it as being currently ranked as the second fastest growing tourism market in the world, falling just behind China. Is listed every year by prestigious tourism guides like Lonely Planet as a top tourist destination along with Greece, Spain, and other popular locations. It was not until the 2000s that the tourism industry began to recover, and the country has since experienced a high rate of growth in the number of visits and overnight stays. Demographics. Ethnic structure. According to the 2003 census, Montenegro has 620,145 citizens. If the methodology used up to 1991 had been adopted in the 2003 census, Montenegro would officially have recorded 673,094 citizens. The results of the 2011 census show that Montenegro had 620,029 citizens. Montenegro is a multi-ethnic state in which no ethnic group forms a majority. Major ethnic groups include Montenegrins Tsrnagorci/Crnogorci and Serbs Srbi/Srbi. Others are Bosniaks Bosnjaci, Albanians Albanci Hrvati and Croats Hrvati. The number of Montenegrins and Serbs fluctuates widely from census to census due to changes in how people perceive, experience, or choose to express their identity and ethnic affiliation. Languages. The official language in Montenegro is Montenegrin. Also, Serbian, Bosnian, Albanian, and Croatian are recognized in usage. Montenegrin, Serbian, Bosnian, and Croatian are mutually intelligible, all being standard varieties of the Serbo-Croatian language. Montenegrin is the plurality mother tongue of the population under 18 years of age. Previous constitutions endorsed Serbo-Croatian as the official language in SR Montenegro and Serbian of the Ijkevian standard during the 1992-2006 period. Religion. Montenegro has been historically at the crossroads of multiculturalism, and over centuries this has shaped its unique form of coexistence between Muslim and Christian populations. Montenegrins have been, historically, members of the Serbian Orthodox Church governed by the Metropolitanate of Montenegro, and the Littoral and Serbian Orthodox Christianity is the most popular religion today in Montenegro. The Montenegrin Orthodox Church was recently founded and is followed by a small minority of Montenegrins, although it is not in communion with any other Christian Orthodox Church, as it has not been officially recognized. Despite tensions between religious groups during the Bosnian War, Montenegro remained fairly stable, mainly due to its population having a historic perspective on religious tolerance and faith diversity. Religious institutions from Montenegro all have guaranteed rights and are separate from the state. The second largest religion is Islam, which amounts to 19% of the total population of the country. Montenegro has the sixth highest proportion of Muslims in Europe, after Kosovo 96%, Turkey 90%, Albania 60%, Bosnia and Herzegovina 51%, and North Macedonia 34%, and Montenegro is the third Slavic country with highest proportion of Muslims in Europe, after Bosnia and Herzegovina 51% and North Macedonia 34%. A little more than one-fourth of Albanians are Catholics, 8,126, in the 2004 census, while the other three-fourths, 22,267, are mainly Sunni Muslims, In 2012, a protocol passed that recognizes Islam as an official religion in Montenegro, ensures that halal foods will be served at military facilities, hospitals, dormitories, and all social facilities, and that Muslim women will be permitted to wear headscarves in schools and at. Since the time of Vojislavljevic dynasty, Catholicism is autochthonous in the Montenegrin area. There is also a small Roman Catholic population, mostly Albanians with some Croats, divided between the Archdiocese of Antivari headed by the Primate of Serbia, and the Diocese of Kotor, that is a part of the Catholic Church in Croatia. Religious determination according to the 2011 census. Education. Education in Montenegro is regulated by the Montenegrin Ministry of Education and Science. Education starts in either preschools or elementary schools. Children enroll in elementary schools Montenegrin, osnovna škola at the age of 6. It lasts 9 years. The students may continue their secondary education Montenegrin, srednja škola, which lasts 4 years, 3 years for trade schools and ends with graduation matura. Higher education lasts with a certain first degree after 3 to 6 years. There is one public university, University of Montenegro, and 2 private ones, Mediterranean University and University of Donja Gorica. Elementary and secondary education. Elementary education in Montenegro is free and compulsory for all the children between the ages of 7 and 15 when children attend the 8-year school. Various types of elementary education are available to all who qualify, but the vocational and technical schools gymnasiums, where the students follow 4-year course which will take them up to the university entrance, are the most popular. At the secondary level, there are a number of art schools, apprentice schools, and teacher training schools. Those who have attended the technical schools may pursue their education further at one of 2-year post-secondary schools created in response to the needs of industry and the social services. Secondary schools are divided in 3 types, and children attend one depending on choice and primary school grades. Gymnasium Gimnazija/Gimnazija lasts for 4 years and offers a general, broad education. It is a preparatory school for university, and hence the most academic and prestigious. Professional schools Stručna škola/Stručna škola last for 3 or 4 years and specialized students in certain fields which may result in their attending college. Professional schools offer a relatively broad education. Vocational schools Zanatska škola/Zanatska škola last for 3 years and focus on vocational education, e.g., joinery, plumbing, mechanics, without an option of continuing education after 3 years. Tertiary education. Tertiary level institutions are divided into higher education vice obrazovanje and high education visoko obrazovanje level faculties. Colleges, fakultet, and art academies Akademija umjetnosti last between 4 and 6 years. 1 year is 2 semesters long and award diplomas equivalent to a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science degree. Higher schools Visa Škola lasts between 2 and 4 years. Postgraduate education. Postgraduate education postdiplomsk studij is offered after tertiary level and offers master's degrees, PhD, and specialization education. Culture. Art. The culture of Montenegro has been shaped by a variety of influences throughout history. The influence of Orthodox, Ottoman Turk, Slavic, Central European, and seafaring Adriatic cultures, notably parts of Italy, like the Republic of Venice, have been the most important in recent centuries. Montenegro has many significant cultural and historical sites, including heritage sites from the pre-Romanesque, Gothic, and Baroque periods. The Montenegrin coastal region is especially well known for its religious monuments, including the Cathedral of St. Tryphon in Kotor under the Venetians, the Basilica of St. Luke over 800 years, Our Lady of the Rocks Skarpijela, the Savina Monastery, and others. Medieval monasteries contain a number of artistically important frescoes. A dimension of Montenegrin culture is the ethical ideal of Kojstvo I junastvo, humaneness and gallantry. The traditional folk dance of the Montenegrins is the oro, the eagle dance that involves dancing in circles with couples alternating in the center, and is finished by forming a human pyramid by dancers standing on each other's shoulders. Literature. Montenegro's capital, Podgorica, and the former royal capital of Cetinje are the two most important centers of culture and the arts in the country. The American author Rex Stout wrote a long series of detective novels featuring his fictional creation Nero Wolfe, who was born in Montenegro. His Nero Wolfe novel The Black Mountain was largely set in Montenegro during the 1950s. Media. The media of Montenegro refers to mass media outlets based in Montenegro. Television, magazines, and newspapers are all operated by both state-owned and for-profit corporations which depend on advertising, subscription, and other sales-related revenues. The Constitution of Montenegro guarantees freedom of speech. As a country in transition, Montenegro's media system is under transformation. Cuisine. Montenegrin cuisine is a result of Montenegro's long history. It is a variation of Mediterranean and Oriental. The most influence is from Italy, Turkey, Byzantine Empire/Greece, and Hungary. Montenegrin cuisine also varies geographically. The cuisine in the coastal area differs from the one in the northern highland region. The coastal area is traditionally a representative of Mediterranean cuisine, with seafood being a common dish, while the northern represents more the Oriental. Sport. The sports in Montenegro revolves mostly around team sports such as water polo, football, basketball, handball, and volleyball. Other sports involved are boxing, tennis, swimming, judo, karate, athletics, table tennis, and chess. Water polo is the most popular sport in Montenegro and is considered the national sport. Montenegro men's national water polo team is one of the top-ranked teams in the world, winning the gold medal at the 2008 Men's European Water Polo Championship in Malaga, Spain, and winning the gold medal at the 2009 FINA Men's Water Polo World League, which was held in the Montenegrin capital Podgorica. The Montenegrin team PVK Primorac from Kotor became the champion of Europe at the Elian EuroLeague 2009 in Rijeka, Croatia. Football is the second most popular sport in Montenegro. Notable football players from Montenegro are Dejan Savicevic, Predrag Mijatovic, Mirko Vucinic, Stefan Savic. Montenegrin national football team founded in 2006, played in playoffs for UEFA Euro 2012. The Montenegro national basketball team is also known for good performances and had won a lot of medals in the past as part of the Yugoslavia national basketball team. In 2006, the Basketball Federation of Montenegro along with this team joined the International Basketball Federation FIBA on its own, following the independence of Montenegro. Montenegro participated on 2 Eurobaskets until now. Among women's sports, the national handball team is the most successful, having won the 2012 European Championship and finishing as runners-up at the 2012 Summer Olympics. Zrk Budućnost Podgorica won 2 times EHF Champions League. Chess is another popular sport, and some famous global chess players, like Slavko Dedić, were born in Montenegro. At the 2012 Olympic Games in London, Montenegro women's national handball team won the country's first Olympic medal by winning silver. They lost in the final to defending world, Olympic and European champions, Norway 26-23. Following this defeat, the team won against Norway in the final of the 2012 European Championship. Public holidays. Asterisk 2021 dates. Exact dates vary each year according to the Orthodox calendar.